Oh, okay. This is an interesting startup. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Phil, playing Phil. Yeah, I saw this game and I thought, it's got my name on it. I've got to play it. Okay. What are the controls? Whilst to move, F for flashlight, E to interact, 1 to 3 for peeking around corners. Okay, that's an interesting idea, but usually people use Q and E for that, but never mind. Tab for inventory. Items can only be used once selected from your inventory first. Shift to sprint. You have a limited sprint, and once it's gone, it takes a while for it to come back, so use it wisely. Okay, and P to leave. Okay, is that here? Oh, no, that's quit. As it transpires, P is quit, not leave control setup. Right, let's get into the game. Oh, what's this? Original, like any good metal door, hard, rough, noisy and loud. Wimp, like any good wooden door, weak and very easy to open. Well, I mean, it's got my name on it. I'm hardly going to go the wimpy option, am I? Come on, let's do it the hard way. In which case there may be a few more jump cuts in this video than usual, but never mind, I can do it better. We're going for a drive. At least we've got our seatbelt in. Which I think it sounds more like we're trying to murder somebody by hitting them with a pillow, if I'm honest. About the time I got home from work, we'll say that it's really dark in here. I could have left some more lights on before I left. Oh, I say, this is an interesting form of pixelization. It's like pixelization plus VHS filter. Interesting. Oh, very flat plants. Good. Oh, the box must have went out. Should go check on it just outside the front door and to the left. Okay, is that here? Oh, I say, it is very dark. I'm so sorry there's so little of this that you can see. It's very dark. Interact with this? The fuses are gone. I don't understand. Somebody's stolen the fuses. Sounds like a murderer's going to come and try and murderize you. Is there anything around the back of the house? What's that? What's that? Oh, you meant, what is that? I thought you meant... Oh, that's what that was. Okay. So, yeah, apparently this game is very hard, so expect me to die a lot. Okay, so the lights are going to go out, I assume, again, and then I'm going to have to go out for the fuses. Okay, if you insist. There we go. Okay. So, if you... What? I like it turn around. Okay, never mind. Okay, so perhaps inside is safe and outside isn't safe, and I shouldn't be waltzing around outside in the dark. I should be staying inside. That's what I'm going to assume. Okay, I see many things outside. I'm just not convinced that it's safe to be outside. Let's have a look around the house first. Sounds like it came from just outside the fence. Okay, so it's outside. Let's keep it that way, shall we? So this is what pictures of horror games. You never quite see what things are. I think these are meant to be bookcases. Is that a clock? I'm actually not sure. What's this? Another door outside? No, this is the kitchen. I say, nice big kitchen. I have some fruit. No, I can't have some fruit. I have some flowers. No, can I open a cupboard? No, can I have some Oreos? Can I cook some pizza? Can I do anything? I can do something with this, I just don't see what. No, interacting isn't doing anything with this. Okay. Okay, what's through here? Okay, so the monster's just waltzing around like a friendly person, okay. Huh, okay, bit weird. Sorry, I don't know why I'm not particularly scared of this. Usually I'm quite scared of, in horror games. I'm not particularly scared this time around for some crazy reason. Okay, so maybe that's me. That's me after, somebody locked me in a boring 2-hour conversation that produces the grand total of diddly squat. How is the TV still on if the power's off? That's what happens to me. if you waste my time, apparently. I turn into some crawling, screaming maniac. Okay. Reminds me a little bit of, oh, what's his number? 096? SCP-096, the Shy Man? Reminds me a little bit of him, what with the whole gangly arms and screaming and things like that. Oh, washing machine. That wasn't a good sound. Okay, I don't think I'm actually opening the doors or pressing E. I think you just open the doors when you walk up to them. I think that's how the system works. Okay, got a big old clock. Yes, they do just open on their own. Okay. Anything in the mirror? Oh! Oh, I say! I see. So this is a game about what the man from the bathroom sign does when he goes home at night. I see. Right, okay, which way did I come from? That's a weird noise. Oh, okay, this is the... Oh no, this isn't the room. This isn't the door he came in by. This is the door he came in by. Okay, so I don't really know what the objective of this game is. Oh, that shiny silvery thing I saw, that must have been a fuse. I need to get the fuses back. While avoiding that creature, who's probably me. A weird version of me. I see. Can I see him outside? And then sort of avoid him? Okay, I don't quite get the mechanics of this guy, but never mind. I do wish I didn't have to go through this whole waiting for the lights to go off thing every time, but never mind. Okay, so I've got to avoid him somehow, collect the fuses and bring them back to the fuse box and turn the lights back on. That is my assumption as to how this works. Give me a minute and I'll try my best and see if I can avoid him. Okay, so last time, instead of going outside, I just wandered around inside a lot. And it doesn't seem there are any fuses inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and wait. Oh, wow, okay, I can turn the flashlight and it goes pitch black. I'm going to try and wait, see if he comes inside. Okay. Okay, that didn't work. I'm not even entirely sure how he found me, but he managed to, somehow. Also, what are you doing leaving the lights on when you leave? Are you not an eco-friendly person? However, this is back in the times before we knew the environment was a thing that existed in the universe. Okay, so I'm assuming you can turn the flashlight on in order to off rather in order to make yourself more discreet, but no guarantees about that. So possibly you have to hide, not by pressing that button, Phil, by pressing this button. So perhaps you have to hide. Maybe it's because it was too close to a window or something. I don't know. So turn this off and just wander down the corridor. Past the windows to make yourself more discreet, so to hide in here where he can't see you, and then wait for him to come into the house, and then sneak outside, get some fuses, put them in the box, and then win. I hear noises. Too close for comfort, kiddo. Is he outside again? Is he still inside? Oh! A fuse! Oh. I see, so I can pick up the... Get the fuse and put it in. Oh! Go away. Nobody cares. Nobody's that interested, Phil. Shut up. Oh, gosh. I am very confused as to how his mechanics work. I can't seemingly find him. I'm not going back inside this time. I'm trying a different tactic. Is this different tactic going to work for me or not? Nope. I thought if I stayed outside but I didn't turn the lights on, or I didn't keep the flashlight on, he might not come inside for me. Evidently that is not how this kid rolls. Okay, so I'm assuming that my only tactic is to go back inside at the beginning, because that seems to be that every time I've come outside I've died, and every time I've stayed outside I've died, and every time I've come inside I've survived longer. Okay, so I've got a fuse. So I can collect at most 2 fuses at once. So the fuses are obviously randomly placed. Evidently they're randomly placed. Okay, so I've got some fuses now. So I need to now try and get outside with these fuses. See if I can hear him. I've also kicked the volume up a bit for you, so you can hear everything a bit better. I don't know where he is. I don't know why I'm whispering. I don't know. You're welcome for the volume increase. I've honestly got no idea how to play this game. Perhaps this is one of those times when reading nothing about a game before you actually get it was a mistake. Just maybe. Okay, there's another fuse inside again. I don't know how many there are. Maybe there are only 2 fuses and you just need to get them back. In which case this would be a bit... I was going to say a short game, but then again, we've been going 15 minutes so far and we've succeeded in nothing so far. Alright, okay, so there are more than 2 fuses hanging around, which means you probably either need to do multiple trips, and it just lets you carry 2 at a time to stop you from doing it all in one go. Okay, so the light being off does not help. That is what I have surmised. The light being off helps you, the grand total of not at all. Okay, new idea. Can we look around outside before we go to the fuse box or not? Can we just get a rough feel for what is going on in this very flat house? Okay, so what we have surmised from circumnavigating the house is that there's nothing here. So the fuses do not appear until you have noticed the fuses are gone, and he does not appear until you have noticed the fuses are gone. And if you stay outside, you die. So the first move, logically, must be to stay inside the house and check the house for fuses. See if there are any you can collect. Then after I didn't see this room before. Okay, I have a meat room. Maybe this explains why there's a monster trying to kill me. Maybe I'm a murderer. Either that or I'm just a very enthusiastic butcher. One or the other. I forgot that happened. I'm just curious why the TV was on while it... Why can't I go in this door? The gate door is locked apparently. I was curious why the TV was on while the power was off, but never mind. Okay, so we can get this far reliably. The question now is how. I don't know why I'm turning the flashlight off. It doesn't help. I'm convinced it doesn't. So I really wish there was a save button. That would be kind of cool. Okay, I can hear his footsteps, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around every time I hear his footsteps. Okay, the next time that he catches me and he shouts and he starts running towards me, I'm going to sprint. Because there is a sprint button, haven't used it yet, there is a sprint button. So, logically, there must be a purpose of the sprint. What purpose would the sprint have other than for getting away from the bad guy? So perhaps the idea is you're meant to get seen a few times, but you're just not meant to get caught. when you're seen. Maybe that's the idea. Possibly, I don't know. Right, got the fuses. Let's just try and get back to the fuse box. Oh. Well, I got a fuse in. I suppose that's progress. I've got no idea how many fuses you need to get in. I would assume more than 2. Oh, I didn't even use the sprint like I said I was going to. Got all excited about the fact that I managed to actually get to the fuse box without catching me. So at the moment, it would seem like my best chance is luck. My best chance is to luck out, find fuses within the house, and then get back to the fuse box without him finding me. That would appear to be, at the moment, the only strategy I can find. I should emphasise this is considered a strategy horror game. It is described as such. Okay, so sprinting doesn't work is what we've surmised. Sprinting is completely useless. So sprinting is possibly only useful for when you hear his footsteps and you realise he's nearby and you have to run away from him. Okay, so he's not triggered by movement, he's not triggered by light, he's not triggered by sound, he's triggered by nothing. Presumably that means he's triggered then by proximity. Great. Oh, I don't know. I suppose I should find something to talk about while we play this, or else there's not actually going to be any fascinating footage for me to actually leave in, because at the moment I've been cutting it all out because there's been absolutely nothing to watch because I've just been waltzing around and dying a lot. So what should I talk about in the meantime? Why don't I talk about, let's have a think, the glorious history of my country. There we are. I'll give you a little history lesson. This is... Okay. So he's not triggered by proximity. He's triggered by randomness. Random stuff that I don't have an explanation for. Okay, I can live with that. Anyway, glorious history of whatever under the sun you want to call it. Okay, so English history started in 1066, as everybody knows. English history started in 1066 when a French man started it all. He was called William the Conqueror, and he came over here and he won a game of conquers, you see. There was an old Viking king who used to be in charge of the place, and he was called Harold. And you see, this man thought he was really good at conquers, and he'd beaten everyone else in Britain at conquers, so he thought he was the conquering champion. So he was calling himself Harold the Conqueror, you see. But then William came along, and William decided that he was even better at playing conquers, and he was better than everyone in France at playing conquers. That's why he was the king of France. So anyway, he came over to Britain one day with a load of men called Norman behind him. And he decided that he wanted to play Harold at a game of conquers. So they met at a place called Hastings for some crazy reason, because that's the place where everybody plays conquers. I don't know how much you know about the British institution of playing conquers, but my giddy aunt, we love doing it in Hastings. So anyway, they went to Hastings and they had a game of conquers. And in this game of conquers, William the Conqueror, the French bloke, hit Harold's conquer so hard that it bapped him in the eyeball and it killed him. Oh, wasn't there peek round corners buttons? No, I thought there were peek round corners buttons. I thought 1 and 3 peek round corners. I'd completely forgotten I could do that, but apparently that's not a real control anymore. Okay, fine. Anyway, so Harold was dead, and this meant that England didn't have a king. And of course, the way the English monarchy works is whoever's best at playing conquers becomes king. So William became king. The only problem was he was also king of France. There we are, that's better. I got stuck in there for a minute. Anyway, William became king of France, and this is how English history started, when a Frenchman became king of England. Right. After that, He died because he was really old and really fat and he blew up. Which wasn't fun. I don't know how many times you've blown up because you have a really big stomach, but I mean, you probably felt that way after a kebab or something. Anyway, it's not fun. He blew up. And his son... Anyway, he had a son called William II. And he went hunting one day in the woods, and he got killed in mysterious circumstances, very mysterious circumstances. And my great millions and millions and millions and hundreds and 1,000 years worth of greats grandfather found his dead body and dragged him back to London. And then everyone was like, oh no, the king is dead, what are we going to do? Same thing we did after the last one, and get a different person in charge. Anyway, this kept on going along with people dying in random circumstances forever and ever and ever until the Tudors turned up. And the Tudors were a bunch of really mean people that loved murdering everybody. So they went around and did lots and lots and lots of murders. And not a lot else. How many of these things do I need? I've put 4 in, come on! Please don't make me go back inside the house. Right, where was I? Oh yes, the Tudors. Yes. So anyway, the Tudors liked sailing. So they went around and they did Anyway, the Tudors liked sailing, so they went around and did lots of sailing. And they sent people like Sir Walter Raleigh all over the place. And they went around and they discovered lots of places. And they discovered America and they started making places and stuff in America. And they started naming places in America after English kings and queens. Hence why they named Virginia, because for some reason they wanted to name it after the fact that Queen Mary was a virgin. Queen Elizabeth was a virgin. Absolutely no idea why. To be honest, I think that's some kind of private information rather than something you want to go around... Anyway, but the Spanish didn't like the Tudors, you see. The Spanish didn't like Queen Elizabeth. The Spanish didn't like them at all because Queen Mary, who was Elizabeth's sister or half-sister or stepsister, or I cursed well know, she was some sort of a sister to Queen Elizabeth, and they didn't really like Queen Elizabeth because she didn't like the Spanish, you see, because her sister, who'd been queen previously, had been Catholic, and they were like, "Ooh, that's fantastic! We like the robes, and we like that we get to drink wine on Sundays." So, you know, they were all about drinking wine on Sundays and having a siesta afterwards. And we English weren't a bit like that. We prefer to sleep at night rather than sleeping in the afternoon because we like to get lots of sun. That's why we all have horrible tans. So anyway, they decided to come over here and they decided to follow the suit of William the Conqueror. You see, they wanted to change England away from having an English king and give it a Spanish king instead. But we didn't like that idea. We thought, no, we're not having any of that. So anyway, we wanted to keep our Protestantism, and they wanted to bring in our Catholicism instead, like we used to have with Queen Mary. So anyway, Queen Elizabeth and the King, or I think it was called King Philip, decided, oh, we're not going to like this. But instead of having a game of conquers, you see, they couldn't have a game of conquers, because of course the Spanish had to get there first. So the Spanish sent a lot of ships in order to carry an awful lot of conquers, so that no matter how many conquers were broken in the game, they could definitely outlast the number of English conquerors. So they brought every single conqueror in Spain in their armada, and they tried to bring it over here to England. The only problem was the storm sank it all. So then the Spanish didn't have any ships, and they didn't have any conquers, and they couldn't win, and that was the end of Spanish history and the big end of the English Tudors, because then Queen Elizabeth died because she didn't have any children, because she kept using her promise of marriage as a political weapon, and she never actually ended up marrying anybody. Which meant that that was the end of the line of the Tudors. And then came Queen Victoria, who was very sad and very old, and she basically just sat around on her bum all the time and didn't really do anything, apart from when somebody tried to assassinate her, at which point she managed to stop them by doing this. Which I must say, I really think lots of assassinated people in history could have done a lot better if they'd only gotten out of the way of the bullets. Anyway, Queen Victoria was the third Queen of England. She's the only Queen that anybody ever remembers because they're the only people that matter. As everybody who knows anything about the English knows, the only thing we care about is our queens. And our cups of tea. I'm trying to tell a history lesson. Oh dear. I don't even know what I'm going on about at this point. I'm just wittering on about rubbish I can think of. Oh. Okay, so the The next stage in English history after Queen Elizabeth I was, of course, King Charles and Oliver Cromwell. So, Oliver Cromwell was a really, well, I was going to say a very naughty man. Actually, he wasn't. He was a man that didn't like anything naughty, and the king was being very, very naughty. He was playing lots of loud music, and he was having lots of ladies over for parties. That's him, because he shouts a lot. So anyway, he didn't like Oliver Cromwell, and Oliver Cromwell didn't like Charles I. So they decided that they were going to have a great big fight instead. So they had a big fight at a place called Bosworth Field. Oh wait, no, hang on a minute, that's Richard III. Well, I can't remember any of the names of the battles of the Civil War. So anyway, this was the English Civil War, where all of the people who wanted King Charles out were called Roundheads because they had round heads, and all of the people who didn't want... What a strange noise. Anyway, all of the people who didn't want Oliver Cromwell to be in charge were called Royalists, and they wore big fluffy hats. So they were the fluffy hats, and the bad guys were the Roundheads. And no, that does not mean that the Royalists had square heads, it just means that they didn't accentuate their round heads. Anyway, so they had a great big fight in the middle of the field, and King Charles I's head got cut off, and Oliver Cromwell declared himself not king, but something that's basically king. He put himself in charge of Parliament, which is the thing that's basically the same as Congress, only with a bit less shouting and a few more posh accents. And a little less hilarious exaggeration. Yes, I have deduced that this game is completely random. There is literally no way to actually win this game with strategy. All you can do is wander around and hope that you will succeed. As the only tactic. Also, these lights take forever to turn off. Anyway, so Oliver Cromwell said that he hated kings and he wanted Parliament to be in charge, which is why he started the war. So anyway, he won the war, and then he'd made himself king, but didn't call himself a king, he called himself something else, I've forgotten what. So anyway, he put himself in charge of absolutely everything. And he decided all the rules that Parliament could set and all of the rules that Parliament would abide by, and he outlawed lots and lots of different things, like plays, and Christmas, and fun and smiling and kittens and puppies and bunny rabbits and chocolates and laughter and singing and all these horrible things that he thought were horrible, but in reality are what make life worth living. So anyway, he outruled all of these things. But then he died, and it was like, hooray! This horrible man that we don't like because he's stopping us from having any fun, and we were suffering severe dopamine withdrawal, except they didn't say that because they didn't know what dopamine was, because it wouldn't be discovered for another 500 years. Oh, gosh. I've also surmised that the sprint is useless because there's absolutely no way to escape. So anyway, he died, and his son, who wore a lot of orange trousers, came along and was made king, but not king instead. But anyway, he was really boring and nothing ever happened with him, so he then died as well after not very long. So people didn't like him, and then he was dead, but he didn't have a son to take over. Yeah, because you know that Parliament works on a really hereditary basis, so it makes complete sense that Oliver Cromwell would put his son in charge after he died, doesn't it? Yeah, that's not kingly at all. Anyway, King Oliver, but not really his son, was dead, and we didn't have anybody to rule us, so we sent a message over to France to find King Charles I's son, and we basically said to him, hey, we've got nobody in charge of our country, would you like to come over and be in charge of our country? We don't have any parties, and we'd really like you to have lots of parties with us. So he said, I get to have an entire country that will pay me lots and lots of tax pounds, and in return for my tax pounds, I get to have lots and lots of parties. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty sweet deal if you ask me. So anyway, he came over, and he was made king instead, and he was really happy, and he brought back so many kittens and puppies to make us all happy again, and had so many parties that we decided to name a breed of dog after it, because of their big fluffy ears, a bit like his big fluffy wig. So anyway, everyone was really happy, and then he died, but I don't know how, because I wasn't really good at history. So anyway, King Charles II was dead, and after this, nothing basically happened for a very long time, until Queen Victoria turned up. Nothing happened for a very long time, until the Georges turned up, you see, because we didn't have any more English kings. You see, they all died, and there weren't any heirs. So we didn't know what to do. The nearest member we had was, I believe, in the Scottish royal family. But you see, they were Catholics, and we'd learned our lesson from what had happened with the Spanish, and we didn't like Catholics, and we wanted to keep a Protestant person. So what we did instead was we got somebody who was even further related from the crown than this Catholic person was, but they were Protestant. And as you know, religion overrules hereditary when it's convenient. So anyway, we got ourselves a Protestant person who was a German. This man was called George I. The problem with George I, you see, was that he didn't know how to speak English. So he was an English king who didn't really know how to speak English or know anything about England. And as such, people like to take advantage of him because he would just agree with whatever they said. Because I don't know if you've ever not been able to hear somebody, but when you can't really hear what somebody's saying, there's lots of fuses in there. When you can't hear somebody, what you do is you just nod politely and say yes. You see, this is what he did as well. He was the person who started this trend. And everybody took advantage of this. So a man came along and said, I wonder what would happen if I asked him for lots of things, like a big house and lots of money and a big title. So he tried this tactic, and it worked brilliantly. And this man became the first Prime Minister of England, and I've already forgotten his name. But anyway, he then died on the toilet, because of course he did, because that's how all the best kings die. Okay, so we found all the ones that are inside, the rest must be... we found all the ones that are outside, the rest must be inside. So anyway, his son then took over, who was really, really bad. Nobody particularly liked him, particularly not the Scottish, who we had a great big fight with. Had a great big fight up in Scotland, and they didn't like him very much. But anyway, he died, and then King George III came over, and he took over instead. You see, the problem with George III was he was absolutely stark raving mad. Like, really. So anyway, King George III was completely, absolutely stark raving and bonkers. However, he was at the time the longest reigning monarch of England. He ruled for about 40 years, and everyone, 60 years, sorry. He ruled for about 60 years, and everyone thought, wow, this is amazing, he ruled for 60 years. You see, the problem who didn't really like this, everyone in England liked it, because we love setting records in England. So anyway, nobody really liked him, or rather everybody really liked him, apart from his son, King George IV, who was really, really cheesed off about the fact that his dad was living so long, because of course it meant he couldn't be king. So he was really cheesed off about this, because he got to be regent but never king, and he was really upset about being regent, because although he basically had all the powers, he didn't have the title. He was still known as just King Regent, or rather Prince Regent, or whatever under the sun people called him, because I honestly can't remember, because it was really long ago. Anyway, he didn't really like it, because of course he didn't have access to most of the tax dollars, or tax pounds rather, and he didn't like this, because he had lots of debts, because he kept buying things and spending money on things, like building curry houses, because you see, King George IV was the curry king. As everybody knows, good old George IV was lots and lots of curry houses in Britain. So basically, England became a curry place. Anyway, he had lots and lots of debts, and he repeatedly married lots and lots of people for the sake of earning more money so that he could pay off more of his debts and build more curry houses, because he was the curry man king. So he kept on doing this until George III finally kicked the bucket and went to the great big straitjacket in the sky, and George IV took over instead. And he didn't really do anything. He just kind of sat around on his big fat curry bum and didn't really do anything other than eat more curries and amass more debts. Anyway, he died, and after him, Queen Victoria turned up. And Queen Victoria kind of followed suit in the sense that she was also German, and she didn't really know what England was, so instead she tried to make it German by bringing in loads of German things, like a German prince, and German Christmas trees, and German music, and all sorts of other German things. So she basically turned England into Germany 2.0, for a bit. But anyway, Prince Albert then died, who was her husband, who was the man responsible for popularising the moustache in England. Every single time that you've seen an English person with a moustache, you can thank Prince Albert for that. He was the moustache man. So anyway, he died, and then Queen Victoria was like, oh dear, my husband's dead, that's a very sad set of circumstances. So anyway, she then decided she was going to wear black. And then she did it again. And again. And again. For 40 years, for goodness sake. She was very sad, and she was very grey, and very old, and very fat, and very sedimentary, and very, 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 very fond of wearing black clothes. So she sat around on her big German bum forever and ever and ever until finally she died. And then the First World War happened. And that was a very big, great big mess that nobody really knows how it started, because it all got really, really confusing. Though some people say it was Bob Murray killing killing Archduke Ferdinand. That was it, after he sent a spaceship full of puppies into space. That's how that bit happened. So that's how the First World War started, and we basically came along and we won that like a boss. And then after that, the Second World War happened, which is even more confusingly started, because nobody really knows how that one began, because that one evidently wasn't just because of the First World War not being ended properly. And again, just like everything, it was a great big problem caused by a load of debt. I've also surmised that it takes him a minute, can't speak today, it takes him a minute to actually get in the front door. So what it's best to do is to wander around the house for a while, collecting the fuses until he turns up. Don't know what that noise was. Right, so anyway, we came along in the Second World War, and we kept saying to the Americans, hey, Americans, you know those German blokes on the other side of the pond there that you don't particularly like? Yeah, well, we don't particularly like them either. Would you like to team up with us so that we can win at a game of Conquers? And they said, not really entirely sure it's worth our while, you see. We're not entirely sure that we're really into this idea, you see. We're a bit busy with other bits and pieces at the minute, like having the 40s. Do you mind if we don't join in? Well, all right, I suppose we'll just have to sort of carry on our own then, you know, we can't force them into it. And then the Japanese came along, and the Japanese forced the Americans into the war. So they then joined in. And by joining in, I mean they came along and stole all our women, and then they joined in properly, and then we beat the Germans back all the way to Berlin, and then Winston Churchill sat in Hitler's armchair. And that was the end of the Second World War, which amazingly was not won by conquerors in the good old-fashioned English tradition. That's because I don't think the Germans like conquerors very much, and I don't know why. To me, I think they're fantastic. Every king since 1207 has been won by conquerors, so as far as I'm concerned, that's the best way of electing kings. So anyway, after the Second World War, we got Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, the current one. She's been around that long. So anyway, she's been around forever and ever and ever, and it's theorised that she's all sorts of wild different things. Some people think that her servants go out onto the streets of London after it's dark and catch English citizens, and they take them back to Buckingham Palace and they cook them and she eats them, and that's why she's so old. However, this is complete rubbish. Other people think that she's a lizard person, and that that's how she's managed to survive so long, even though the fact that she's only about 97 and lots of people currently are living to over 100, which frankly isn't surprising. Anyway, she's very old, and there are lots and lots of different theories about why she's happened, and she's got quite a big family. She's got all sorts of sons and cousins and aunts and nephews and nieces and all sorts of people like that. And currently, instead of kings and queens being big, powerful people that go around doing stuff and writing laws and fighting wars and winning games of conquerors, what they're doing instead is they're getting plastered all over the front of magazines for some reason. Nobody really knows why. It's one of the greatest mysteries of the earth. Like, where does the stuff that goes into black holes actually end up? Does it go out of white holes? Does it go in another place in time? Does it go another place in the universe? Nobody really knows, and for the exact same level of mysteriousness, nobody has any clue why the royal family are constantly getting put in the magazines. Which is very uncomfortable, because I don't know if you've ever seen a magazine. It's not really big enough to put a whole person in it, particularly when you've got a family as big as old Lizzie's. So anyway, that's the current state of the royal family, all the way back from the very first royal family that we ever had that wasn't English and started English history with William the Conqueror. Hooray! That's the history of England. The entire history of everything that has ever happened in this entire nation. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Right, okay, so that's English history. So, I mean, for all of you people that are ever going to be coming over to Britain, you're going to need to know a bit of history, which is good, because you've just heard it all. You've heard every single thing that's ever happened in the history of England. So anyway, now what you're going to need is a little bit of a cultural orientation. You're going to need to understand how England works as a nation and how we work as a people. Right, so the first thing you need to know is that every single person in England pronounces every single word perfectly at all times, as you will full know by watching my videos. You'll all know that every single word that every English person has ever said in the history of the entire universe has been pronounced utterly correctly, and any person who pronounces any word wrong is going to die. You see, that's why we have the police in England. We don't have them to stop criminals and burglars and thieves and cake stealers and people who frown at puppies. No, we don't have the police for any of those reasons. We have it entirely to arrest people who mispronounce words. This is the only reason they exist. So what can I tell you about the culture of England then? Let's see. Very important thing you'll need to know: North-South divide. Everybody in the South hates everyone in the North, and everyone in the North hates everyone in the South. I see. He's gone back outside. Interesting. So yes, everyone in the South utterly despises everyone in the North, and everyone in the North utterly despises everybody in the South. And nobody really knows why, if I'm honest. Nobody's really figured that one out. So, let's see, what else is? Oh yeah, on a slightly wider scale, if you're Scottish, you'll hate everyone who's English, and if you're English, you'll probably be a bit confused by this, because you don't really understand why the Scottish hate us. Oh yeah, that's right, because you constantly try to invade them. Anyway, something else that you may find curious about the UK is that in reality, although we are 4 nations, technically, we're all kind of under the same banner, yet at the same time we all kind of have our own parliaments. For example, there's the Scottish Parliament, who have a party in the English Parliament. And yet they have their own parliament for writing their own rules about Scotland, and yet they have the Scottish party that's in the English Parliament for writing laws about England. Yeah, it's all really very confusing, if I'm honest. Nobody really understands how it works, but it's the system we've been working with, and we're just kind of sticking with it for the time being. I should emphasise, as much as it probably looks like I'm just wandering around and I'm not making any progress, I am making progress. I am doing better. I am learning his mechanics better. I am learning how he moves better. I'm learning that his movements are pretty much entirely random. And as such, you do really need to be paying attention to where he is. If he comes inside the house, your best chance is to leave and check outside first. If he comes inside the house and then goes right back out again, your best chance is to stay inside, search the house and find out where they are. And while you're wandering around looking to try and get your way back to the fuse box, you need to be very aware of where the fuses are. You see, you need to remember. See, I now know there's one at the back of the house. You see, you need to see which ones, even the ones you can't pick up because your inventory is already full. You need to remember where they are and not die. You need to remember where they are so that when you're coming back, you can be more efficient. So very, very slowly, I'm getting there. And on average, when I'm not just stumbling into him like that at random, I am doing better. I'm getting an average of about 2 in each time currently, versus previously I wasn't getting any in. So I'm doing slightly better. Slightly better. Very, very slowly. Okay, so in what other ways does England differ from America? Let's see. Well, in America, on the 4th of July, you set off loads of fireworks in order to celebrate your independence from the British Empire. In England, however, we don't do that, because of course we're not going to celebrate the fact that we lost a lot of tax revenue. We're not going to celebrate the fact that we used to be an empire that oppressed nations, took stuff, never gave you any representation whatsoever, and never really did anything good, and basically just abused you for years and years and years and never did anything positive for your nation. Apart from found you, of course. So, we don't celebrate that. What we do instead is on November the 5th, we have Fireworks Night, or Guy Fawkes Night if you prefer. So, Guy Fawkes was a man, and he was a man that didn't really like the king. He didn't like him. Not even a tiny bit did he like him. So what he decided to do was he wanted to kill the king, and he wanted to blow the king up with loads of dynamite. So anyway, I have a theory this room is special for some reason. I've got no idea why, but it just seemed utterly pointless to have this room that's not special. So I'm assuming there's something special about this room. I just don't know what it is. So anyway, Guy Fawkes didn't like the king. What he decided to do was he was going to get lots of gunpowder and put it in the basement underneath, or the cellar if you prefer, the cellar underneath Parliament, you see. Because the king was going to come and open Parliament. He was going to come and open the doors, because you see, the king is the only person who is strong enough to open the doors to Parliament. That's why we still have a monarchy, you see. That's why the king always opens Parliament, or the queen. We are not strong enough ourselves to open the doors to the parliamentary building. So we need somebody with divine right to come and open the doors for us, because we're a bit stuck. So that's what the Queen's main duties are, to come and open Parliament every day so that the men and women can go in there and make all the laws and stuff and settle the taxes and such like. So anyway, the king was going to open Parliament because he's the only person who can do it. But Guy Fawkes didn't like the king. He wanted a new king. So what he did instead was he got lots and lots of dynamite and put it underneath Parliament. You see, but there was a slight problem with this. If he was going to blow up Parliament, he was also going to kill all the people in Parliament as well. And he didn't want to do this, because you see all of his friends sat in Parliament, because he was a big rich man. And at that point, your money dictated your political power, rather than your electability, you see. So anyway, all of his friends sat in Parliament, and people thought, well, he thought, I don't want all of my friends to die in the explosion. I better send them a letter to tell them, don't go to Parliament today, because I'm going to blow it up to kill the king with lots of dynamite, because I don't like the king. So anyway, he sent this letter. The only problem was, somebody else found the letter, and they opened it, and it detailed his entire plot. So rather than him saying, I don't know, make sure you don't go to Parliament tomorrow, because you know, there's a terrible strain of that chesty cough going around, and I don't want you to catch it, instead of him writing a letter that said that, he instead said, don't go to Parliament because I'm going to blow it up with lots of gunpowder. This is my current name, address, what I look like, my birth date, my mother's maiden name, my email address, and all my bank account details. Don't go and sit in Parliament, you'll get blown up by all of my gunpowder. So anyway, the police went and they arrested him. And because this man completely categorically failed to kill the king, we celebrate his life by setting off fireworks. No, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense, but we still do it every single year. For reasons I have yet to understand, we continue to do this. So that's the main use of fireworks in England for celebratory reasons, and how it differs from how it works in America. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh yes, we have St. George's Day as well, which I don't know the date of. We have St. George's Day, where we celebrate the day a man didn't kill a dragon, because dragons aren't real. So this man, who was called St. George, decided he wanted to kill a dragon. So he got a great big sword, and he walloped the dragon that didn't exist in its big dragon face. He walloped the dragon, and ever since then, we have named the day where he walloped the dragon St. George's Day, for no particularly good reason. Fine, fine, fine. I've been doing this for an hour and a half. I can't do it. I do not have the strength and the time and the energy to continue doing this and continue wittering on about rubbish that nobody cares about for another hour and a half while I try and beat this game. I'm reducing the difficulty, and we're going to do it properly this time. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling fuses. Where are you, refuses? I need to put you in a box. Then this box will make light, and this will scare out or fill up. And then we play this game I'm so sick of playing. You see, I don't mind games that are hard. In fact, I quite like a game that's challenging. I quite like it if it's time pressure, or you have to practice lots, or you have to be really careful, or have to really pay attention, or you have to really refine your skills, or whatever it might be. I really like a game like that. It can be really fun, because it's very, very challenging, and it's very rewarding when you win, and then when you finally manage to beat it, it's an incredible sense of accomplishment. It's a very good thing. There's a problem. What's a lot less fun is random chance. His movements are random. Sometimes he comes in and he goes into the bedroom area. Sometimes he comes in and he goes straight back at the front door. Sometimes he goes in and he wanders around the corridors. There's absolutely no consensus whatsoever, because he's completely random. He is completely and utterly random. He was literally at the front door 2 seconds ago, and now he's in the living room. He's random. His movements are completely, entirely random and unpredictable. There is absolutely no strategy to this game. It is not a strategy game. I am sorry, developers. This is not a strategy game. This is a random chance game. This is a wander around and do random stuff. One little comment I would just like to slice into this unbelievably long piece of footage that's going to be unbelievably boring to edit. One thing I would like to state is that lowering the difficulty doesn't do anything. Like, seriously? You don't get to carry more items. The number of fuses you need isn't reduced. His mechanics don't change, and you can't sprint anymore. It's not easier. I failed to see how Wooden Door is easier than Metal Door. See, I'll tell you what it is about this game that bugs me more than anything else. It's the fact that it's inconsistent. His mechanics are inconsistent. There have been times when I have been on the far side of doors and he's detected me. So I've been in the living room, I've entered via the kitchen just like this, been in the living room, and he's been in the corridor coming from the doorway and he hasn't opened the door, but he's detected me, and then he kills me. Like that. And there have been other times when I've been able to walk right up to him and he hasn't detected me. Which means he definitely is not triggered by proximity. He definitely isn't triggered by sound. He definitely isn't triggered by light. He definitely is triggered by nothing. There's just absolutely no rules with this kid. One time he'll kill you because of one thing, and another time he'll kill you because of another thing. There's absolutely no guarantee whatsoever, which means you can't be sure that anything you do will be successful. Which, to me, seems utterly stupid. Surely the point of a strategy game is that you figure out how something works, and then you come up with a strategy in order to best defeat said thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but where I come from, that's what the definition of strategy is. This game is not a strategy game because you cannot learn what the enemy is or how the enemy works, because the enemy's mechanics are completely and utterly, wholeheartedly, and endingly, categorically random. He's not detected by proximity. Right, I've had it. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot beat this game. I have been playing this game for 2.5 hours. I cannot win. I just cannot win. Even on the easier difficulty, it is utterly, utterly, utterly random. There's no structure, there's no strategy, there's nothing. It's utterly mad, it's utterly pointless, it's utterly random, it's completely incomprehensible. This game, I don't understand it, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. If you like it, fantastic. If you can beat it, fantastic. Links in the description, have a go for yourself. Why don't you? It's even free. Try it, by all means, love it to death. But frankly, this thing has beaten me. I only have so much time in the day. I cannot win. I surrender. So thank you all very much for joining me this evening for this evening of failure, misery, wittering on about rubbish that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, feeling utterly, utterly, utterly defeated and ill the whole way through, and frankly feeling just dreadful. Thank you very much for joining me. Look after each other, and good night.